Welcome to the Meta Behind Relationships. This is your host, Gaylon McDowell, and we're here to have a great conversation today about healthy communication. Many people often don't recognize how they show up in space. In other words, how they are interacting with other human beings. And therefore, because they aren't aware of how they show up, often communication breakdowns can happen. So we're going to talk a lot today about healthy communication and how to get the best communication style for your best results. How do you communicate with your partner to be able to make sure that you are getting your point across and your partner feels as though that they're receiving the grace and love that they deserve? So to have this conversation, we're going to bring the founder and CEO of the 5S for Love, all of the podcasts, all of the platforms, Christine Burkett on the show. Christine, are you there?
Hey, Gaylon.
Hey there. How you doing, Christine?
I'm great. It looks like we're both in different places today.
Yes. But we're going to make it work.
We're going to make it work.
We're going to make it do what it do, as Jamie Foxx said in the movie Ray.
I love it. I'm great. I'm really happy we're having this conversation today. I find that a lot of times there's a disconnect. And so I'm hoping this will help me better connect, especially in personal relationships. Work relationships, I think I do pretty good at those. But it's the personal ones I think I'm kind of struggling with. So I'm looking forward to this conversation with us today.
Beautiful.
So me, I'm ready to get right in on my questions because I got a bunch of questions for you today. So, the first question I want to ask you, what is healthy communication? What does that look like?
Healthy communication is communication that is based in respect, integrity, honesty, and compassion. Now, why those particular qualities? Respect. Obviously, if you don't respect the person that you're communicating with, that normally shows up in a way that will not get you the results you desire. You can always tell when somebody's communicating with somebody they don't respect. That just goes without saying. I'll just leave that at that. When we start talking about integrity, in other words, are you being authentic?
Right.
Are you in integrity with what you're saying? Are you being in integrity with what you're doing? And honesty just goes with what it needs to. People need to be able to trust that what's coming out of your mouth and what you're communicating is legitimate, right, and is honest, and it is not being filtered to show to produce some type of advantage or to manipulate. Right. And obviously compassion. I think the world just needs more compassion when we communicate. That doesn't mean you can't speak directly. Mm-hmm. Speak directly without necessarily being always heavy-handed. Now, I realize there's some situations and circumstances people have to, bosses terminate people, managers are writing people up, parents have to sometimes use tough love. I get all of that. But why do you have to necessarily become another person to communicate? Now, obviously, healthy communication that I just mentioned is verbal. There's also
Right.
the communication that goes along with body language. What is your face saying? Because a person can start talking about love, but their face is saying something else. What is your, are you slumping? Are you angry? Are you arms crossed and mad? It's many ways in which our body language really tells how we feel about a thing. So
Hmm.
since this is the meta behind relationships, this is
Let me
basically our
see now.
subconscious tendency.
Make sure I sit
It's
up
what
that
our
that I'm
subconscious
talking to
is.
you.
It's our subconscious tendencies that tend to interfere
Okay.
with even what we're consciously trying to produce. Because
Okay.
we might say, okay, I'm gonna talk to this person with integrity and with respect, but our eyes are rolling,
Yeah.
our face is tight or angry. Our body is projecting a different type of energy. And a person can pick up on that because most of communication is nonverbal.
Okay.
People can pick up on your energy. So it's really important for us to recognize that if we're having a conversation with someone, especially if it's a difficult conversation, first of all, get yourself together first
Before you even start.
before you even start. Get
Okay.
yourself together first because if you're not together, the moment they react in a way that you might not like, now you're triggered and now you're doing something else. Now it's an argument. Now it's a breakdown. Instead of you getting across what you really want to get across, now you're in the what I want to call it, the you're in the seaweed. You go into the ocean, sometimes
Right.
you get seaweed just in
Mhm.
your leg, feet, and tangled in your leg. Now you're trying to untangle emotion. You're in the seaweed of emotion, trying to pull stuff out to get to the point of what you really want to do, what you really want to get across. So I think it's
Mhm.
important for people to get themselves together, and when they're communicating with a person, sometimes just stop and say, hey, is this a good time to talk? And if
Okay.
not, when? That way people have an opportunity to process, because sometimes, a person's coming in after a hard day and you just
Mhm.
come right in with, I need this, and that. That doesn't necessarily always get beneficial results.
So I have a question for you. And I get this a lot, especially when I'm doing my girl talk chats with my girls, that they feel like their partner, the person that they're going out with, when they say things, they can say 2 or 3 words and that person's automatically offended. So here's an example. The example is, can I talk to you about some of the things that I need? And as soon as they say that, they go, you're always telling me I'm doing something wrong. And they're like, no, I'm just, I want to talk to you about what I need and I don't feel that I'm getting from you. So I don't want us to be, not connected. I want us to be connected, but I'm trying to figure out how to fix this because you're doing this and that's not registering for me. So I'm trying to, give you, may I say, the little droppings, the hints to what the best way to talk to me or make me feel loved or appreciated, and you're not hearing me. So how do you talk to a person who automatically thinks everything you say, you're basically saying that you're I don't know, making them feel like they're inadequate when you're not.
Okay, well, I think it's a couple of things that can be done with that. First of
Okay.
all, that just tells me that there's a general breakdown of communication in that relationship right off the bat.
Okay.
So this could be tackled a few ways. The first way is go to that your girlfriends could go to their partners and say, I really want to make sure that you are receiving what you need from me in this relationship. And I want you to communicate with me what it is that you feel as though you need and what you feel as though you might not be getting right now. And let's see what we can do to make sure that you feel that you are fulfilled in this relationship.
Okay.
Now, when that conversation happens, then you can, and especially if actions are taken that are in integrity, in other words, follow through on. Then when it comes time for your conversation, it makes it easier. Often when that conversation is brought to the table, like what I just said, the partner will then say, well, what is it that you need? So it gives an opportunity, because one of the things that I always teach people is that you give what you want.
I like that. You
See, a
give
lot
what
of
you
times
want.
people want, right? People want to do get, then receive, then give. But universal law is give, then receive, because you reap what you sow. So if you don't sow, how are you reaping?
Right.
So that would be the first way I would tackle that. The other way would be just to figure out, just to have some general conversations around, wanting to win. Like, hey, I want us to win. And for me, winning means that we both are getting what we feel as though we need out of this relationship. And when you come to me or when I come to you, I would like us to be able to have conversations that are not based upon judgment or making someone wrong, but based upon preference. Because preference is different than judgment. Judgment lands differently. You aren't doing things, and you don't know what might be triggered when someone says you're doing something wrong, because now that pulls up childhood stuff, parents, grandparents, siblings, school,
all kind of stuff,
old relationships, all type of stuff. So I often tell people, when two people get together, it's not just two people, it's the two people and their past.
Exactly. Yes.
Many times clashing. All right, because people have unconscious, unresolved issues. And if something is presented improperly, then there could be a breakdown. Now, the last thing would be simply this. As you've heard me say this a million times, Susan Taylor, who used to be the editor-in-chief at Essence Magazine, which is out of print, but she wrote in her book, everyone is not healthy enough to have a front row seat in your life. And sometimes that's the real answer. That sometimes people are wanting people to deliver what they don't have the bandwidth to deliver. And that's okay.
And that's okay.
It doesn't mean that they're horrible people, they're wrong or whatever, but at their current stage of understanding and awareness, they don't have the bandwidth. And that means that you have to make a decision.
Right. Well, guys, you heard it first. Sometimes you just have to make those decisions and you just got to cut it. We'll be right back after this quick commercial break. And if you're the person that's being cut, just know that you might not have a bandwidth. That's it. It's not you and it's not them. It's an issue with the bandwidth. We'll be right back. Hey guys, welcome back. And if you're wondering, why does Christine have a coat on? Because I just got to the hotel and the room is cold. So I got a coat on. That's all. Other than that, I probably wouldn't have this coat on. So, Gaylon, I think that whole first conversation, it's like, how do you level set it? Especially when you're trying to get to know someone. Like, how do you level set a conversation when you're trying to get to know someone? And because, like you said, when you meet somebody, everybody's bringing their stuff, and you don't know that something that you're about to say is going to trigger them because it's a new relationship. So, how do you
Mhm.
work through that?
Well, one of the things I often tell people is to learn first how to trust your intuition. People don't pay attention to when when their intuition is saying go forward, pause, and get away. Sometimes it's go forward. Sometimes it's pause and pay attention. Sometimes it's stop and you need to leave.
Okay.
So what I often tell people is first, step up on your meditation game. Learn to get still, sit with yourself, sit with your energy, sit with your own mind, and get to a space to where you are consistently centering yourself and paying attention.
Okay.
Many times our intuition will come through what we call, the gut feeling. You'll feel something in your abdominal area when something is
Mm-hmm.
off. And mothers will say, how do they know their child is in trouble or something is wrong? They'll feel it even
Yeah.
though they're not
Yeah.
around. Mother wit. Some people
Mm-hmm.
call it intuition. Some people will say it's my first mind told me, or something told me. They feel it energetically. And I think that's the
Right.
first thing people need to pay attention to. And then I think people just need to stop being, and I'm gonna use a urban term. People have to stop being so thirsty to be in a relationship. Sometimes people are so thirsty they don't pay
Mm-hmm.
attention to the red flags.
Mm-hmm.
They want what they want, and they'll drive past every red light because they want what they want. And then on the back end, portray themselves as a victim because they didn't pay attention to the red flags or their own intuition. Now, now that we have that out of the way, then you're dealing with, again, communication. Make sure that you're communicating in an authentic way and that you're
Okay.
asking questions. But I think, especially when you're dealing with a person, some people are more introverted than others, so they are not necessarily always good at pulling up, and pulling out the information that they need. Some people are
Mm-hmm.
detached from their emotion, so
Yes.
sometimes that can be a situation and circumstance as well. So I think sometimes it's necessary just to build as you're dealing with the attraction part, the
Mm-hmm.
friendship part. Okay. Because, the attraction part, I often tell people you can't control who you're attracted to, but you can control what you
Yeah.
do with your attraction. Attraction is normal and
Exactly.
natural, it's a magnetic thing.
Mm-hmm.
But start paying attention to your attraction and what you're attracted to, because what
True.
you're attracted to might not be healthy for you. People have a type, but is your type healthy for you?
For you. Why do I feel like you're talking to me right now?
I'm just
Look, I'm moving. Look,
like
Galen,
real talk.
I'm moving myself off the hot seat. Look, right now. So, what is the context of communication?
You want to jump subject now. That's funny.
Yeah, yeah. I'm just going to
Okay,
bring it down.
that's fine.
Okay,
I
so
think I got my
what is
point
the
across.
context of your communication? What does that mean?
The context of your communication just simply means
Mhm.
what is your point of view of your communication? In other words, is it
Okay.
based upon, as I said earlier, truth, integrity, honesty, compassion, or is it based on judgment, condemnation, separation,
Right.
me against you? All right. One of my favorite authors is Emmett Fox. I quote Emmett Fox
Hmm.
quite often. And Emmett Fox had something where he wrote about God in business, and he said
Yeah.
that when you become at a certain spiritual level, you recognize that God is on both sides of the table. Now that changes your consciousness, how you communicate, how you interact, and what you feel as though your results will be.
Hmm.
Now, It's the same thing when you're dealing with another human being. Okay.
Okay.
Often when people are going to yoga or self-help spaces, they'll say things like namaste. Namaste means I salute the divinity within you, right? Now, can I, as I communicate, am I communicating to the divinity within you? The divinity of in me is communicating to the divinity within you. Now, if I feel as though you are a divine being and I'm a divine being, now we're going to communicate differently. Now, I know that is
Right.
lofty, but I'm talking ideal.
Right.
All right. But
Right.
but if I'm only looking at you as the breakdown, as the problem, as the issue, then it's going to come out a different kind of way.
Okay.
So what I'm trying to just do is help people get to a space to where they can communicate strongly at times, because I'm not saying that your range of emotions is wrong or are wrong. What I will say is, don't let your mind go where you don't want it to go.
Yes.
That's
I
the
like
main
that.
thing.
Don't
Don't let your mind go where you don't want it. And if you can do that, then you can communicate in ways in which you know your context, because you might think that your context is peaceful, but you're coming across angry. You might think that your context is compassionate, but you're coming across judgmental. You might think that your communication is in integrity, but you're trying to manipulate a person to do what you want, for them to do what you want them to do.
Right.
What's the context of your communication? That's all I'm saying. Hopefully that answers the question.
It does. It answers the question, very direct. But I guess the follow-up question is good for me too. So how has the past impacted your communication style, which is big for me, because I'm the kind of person, everybody starts from zero with me. Like, I don't bring in prior stuff. And if you do something that triggers something in me, then I ask questions. I don't assume, I ask questions. Like, okay, so you made that statement. What did you mean exactly? Like, did you mean to say it like this to me? Or were you just like kind of open-ended saying it, like just as a statement and not directed towards me? Just so I can get clarification. Now, if they come back with matching what a previous or something that impacted me that was negative, then I'll say, you know what, we need to talk, because, right? But most times, I just want to say to you, most men are not very talkative. That's a challenge.
First of all, a lot of men are talkative. They just don't want to talk about what you want to talk about.
That's true. That's true.
Get a guy talking about their favorite sports team. Get a guy talking about his hobby. Okay. Whatever that is. All right. So you can, one of the, for instance, my Kung Fu teacher was an extreme introvert, but get him talking about karate, Kung Fu, weapons, Qigong, iron body techniques, iron palm, samurais and ancient warriors, anything that is connected to Japanese or Chinese culture that's connected to martial arts, the Tao, Buddhism, meditation, anything. He could talk for hours. But if you saw him on the street, you would, in regular human interaction, you would say he is exceptionally quiet. No.
Okay.
People love to talk about what they like to talk about.
That's true.
Okay. Now, as far as the past is concerned, everybody has a past.
Okay.
Unfortunately, many people have put their past into their future, and they live into their past. It's like driving a car and only looking in the rearview mirror. But the problem is we don't realize that we're doing it. It's unconscious, it's subconscious. Therefore, your past, if not cleaned up, can affect all of your human interactions, all of the things you do, your money, your health, your relationships, whether intimate or friendships, your work relationships, everything. And you might not even realize that it's happening. the Dr. Phil used to say something. This is a paraphrase, but he would say something like, "The best indicator of future behavior is past behavior."
Mm-hmm.
And psychologists know this. That's why when you sit down or meet with them, the first thing they start asking you is about your past.
Yep.
Because they're trying to get a baseline to determine why you behave the way you behave.
The way you do.
Now, that should be a clue. Because here's the thing. Most behavior that happened by age 7, 8 years old is very ingrained, and we don't even realize it. Right. Therefore, we live it out without realizing it. So what I try to teach people to do is get connected to the space to where you're making conscious choices very deliberately, consistently, and persistently to substitute, to eliminate and then substitute old beliefs, old mental patterns, old emotions, and then things that work. Does that make sense?
It does. So this is where I get very concerned about things. I think when you have one person working in that space and the other person in the relationship is still living in that old space, I think it kind of lends to what you said before. Like, you just got to know you're going to have to call it. At some point, you have to realize that unless that person is willing to go through counseling to kind of address some of those issues, then it's not going to work. Like, I personally dated a person who felt consistently they had to tell me what a great person they were. Always. I didn't ask. It wasn't solicited. I never questioned whether or not they were a great person. They just reiterated and was like, I am like no other person you've ever been with. I'm like the best. I'm like, are you selling me or yourself? Like, I was already sold the first time you said it. Now we're in the middle of a repeat performance and I'm not understanding why. So in that case, I kept saying, well, am I saying something to make this person feel that they have to constantly reassure me that they're the greatest? Like, I just didn't understand that. And I think the downfall of our communication was that whatever I said after that was taken as a negative. And that was just a weird thing for me. I didn't even know how to handle it.
Well, it could be narcissistic. He could have some narcissistic personality traits. That's possible. Okay. The other thing could be when a person doesn't feel valued. I'm not saying that was legitimate or not. When a person doesn't feel valued, they can try to improperly at times say in their own sometimes broken way, I'm a good dude and I deserve better. And instead of just saying, I'm a good dude and I deserve better, it comes across differently.
Yeah.
But again, most people are not necessarily have been trained in good communication. You know, I've often said, you know, it's amazing that I had to learn about the Alamo in elementary school, but I didn't learn critical thinking. I didn't learn communication styles. I didn't learn personality traits, things that would have actually helped me as an adult. But I know about the Alamo.
And that's, I think we're missing a lot in education, past and present, in relation to how we effectively become adults. Folks, we're going to be right back after this commercial break. And we come back, we're going to talk about how do you improve your communication with your partner. Obviously, if you're watching, you know that I need to work on that. So I don't have my sticky notes with me today, folks. I'm not at home. So I'm going to have to rewatch this with you. Trust and believe, because Christine has to know why something isn't working. We'll be right back after this quick commercial break.
Yeah. What's up with it? Do it cause I love it and I stuck with it. We ain't with the subbing in the cut with it. Please none of the talks, I heard enough of it. Like, what you gonna do? Where you at? Who you with? You ain't really about this, don't talk about it. Really on the move, on the map, never slip. Keep your hands to your lips, don't talk about it. Real eyes, all the time. Stand on it, if we said it, we don't walk around it. Loose lips, ain't ships, red cup, blue strips, new phone, who this? No, we don't allow it. Really on go, I don't know what's an off day. Now we on road, came from smoking in the hallway. Now we got shows, boys feeling like Broadway. Always look both ways, even on a crossway. Driving down Cross Bay, out town Barclays. Really on big things, came up a small way. Championship rings, baby, that's a ball game. Oh, she want a little bag, baby, that's small change. Yeah, that money talk. If we ain't cool, then cut me off. No breaking news, don't run your mouth.
Hey guys, welcome back. And you already know where we getting ready to get started, because I need to know how to have better communication with my partner. Like, Gaylon, I'm going to tell you that is a big to-do for me.
Well,
how to improve it.
Yes. So I think that one of the things that we have to do is get feedback. Feedback is not always, what's the word I want to use? Feedback is always good, but it also has to be filtered, because some people are also giving you their filtered response. But feedback is good, because it's good to know how what you're doing is landing, and also create a framework to where everybody's just not walking around as a sensitive button to be pushed. Some people's buttons are so far out from them, you can't help but bump into them and push them. So what I would say is something I said in the previous podcast from last season, something I got from Jack Canfield, which is go to your partner and say, how has our communication, been this week or this month or whatever, from a scale from 1 to 10. And if it's not a 10, how can we get it there? Now, again, this doesn't mean that everybody will always be functioning in perfection. But what it does do is it allows people to know that you are aware and connected to them, that you're thinking about how to best communicate with them, that you're thinking about them. People want to know that you're thinking about them when they're not in the space, or that you're concerned about their well-being or the health of the relationship. And I'm a big believer that nothing can be healthy if you don't put the energy and time in it. So that's part of it.
Right.
Healthy communication is also making sure that you block out time.
Right.
That's specific for that person. And when I say specific, that means that when the phone calls come, hey, I'm with my partner. Is this an emergency? If not, I can hit you back. But you can't say this is your time. Then the text messages start, the DMs start, the phone calls and the emails. And wait a minute, let me just stop. Dedicated time with your partner matters. Date times, Netflix time, whatever that might be. Just make sure that you have mapped out time for your partner. It develops healthy communication. Many times when people go out to dinner, and I notice this when I go out with my wife, that people are on their phones and they're not talking. They're sitting at a dinner table. They're not communicating. Well, how can you connect with someone, all right, in an intimate way, and you can't even have a real conversation with them without being distracted by what everybody else is doing? So if I'm the priority,
right,
treat me like I'm the priority. That's healthy. If I'm the priority, treat me like I'm the priority. Because look, when you have people that are busy, I have a type, what I have to do in the world means my life can change. I just told, my staff this last week, as a minister, I can have my week planned out. Somebody goes to the hospital. Somebody makes their transition. Somebody wants to commit suicide and they have to be
Right.
talked down. Somebody's marriage is about to break down, and I have to, stuff happens. So because of that, I have to have flexibility in my schedule. But I also have to be mindful that whether it's with myself, taking care of myself, or with my family, that when it's dedicated time for me to deal with my family, the people that matter to me, whether it's my wife, my daughter, my stepdaughter, siblings, friends, whatever, this is our time. And you have my full attention. I'm fully present. Your body can be present and your mind can be somewhere else. That's not healthy. So, like, are you here with me? My daughter Angel was great with this. She was one of the ones that taught me this when it came to this phone thing, because I was always on the phone, and she understands in general because she's a preacher's kid. But she would, we're watching something. Dad, you're on your phone. Dad, you want to, Dad, and it made me real present. Let me put this down, because what she was really saying to me was, Dad, this is my time. And I got real present to that very early. So she wouldn't have to say that to me, to where if she wants me to do something with her or watch something with her, she had my full attention. And often that's not the case. So what I would say to people, before anything else, be fully present, be fully aware, be fully mindful of your partner.
Okay, so I'm going to tell you, everything you said is 100% on target, and I felt like you were talking to me. Because I do run 3 different companies, there's rarely a moment where I'm just sitting. And I think the only time I am sitting is when I'm doing the podcast, and I'm doing nothing but the podcast. Because the minute the podcast ends, I'm going back into multitasking. And I do find that is an issue, because everybody knows, like, this year I'm seriously focused on being in a committed relationship. So what do you say to a person like me? I don't do it intentionally, but if someone's texting me and it's related to work, sometimes I've been waiting on that call all day from an app developer, a web developer. Like, I'm waiting for them to update me on a project so I can get back to a client who's been texting me all day. Is my website going live? It's stuff like that. Or my server went down and it's a CEO calling me like, Chris, our server's down. I tell people IT is a 24-hour day job. So I cannot not go anywhere. Every time I go somewhere, Gaylon, I either have a laptop or a tablet or both, and my phone, because if anything happens, I've got to stop what I'm doing and get on top of it. But to the other person, it's like, you're too busy for me.
Yeah, so I think that there's a couple of things. Okay. First thing, obviously, is communicating. How can I be present? Look, I have a call that might be coming, and I'm going to be fully present. But if this happens, I have to address it.
Okay.
You communicate ahead of time to create some level of standards and expectations. That's the first thing.
Okay.
Second thing, even in the midst of emergencies, and those things can happen, the 24/7 is not healthy. And I understand it, because I live a 24/7 life, and I had to learn that myself, to where even right now, when at a certain time at night, and I'm not an IT person, but I would call a first responder of emergencies. Well,
first responder
to the space to where I put my phone on do not disturb at night, to a particular time frame. Why? Because if not, the alerts always come, and I'm just mindful of it. So what I would say to you is this, in a real way, and anyone that's listening that's in your situation, that's a busy person that's juggling many things. And I believe, by the way, that women tend to be better multitaskers than men. That doesn't necessarily mean that's always beneficial. You know, it's
It's
the old
not.
song, the 80s Superwoman. Eventually,
Mhm.
you have to decide energetically and time-wise, what are your priorities? Because if you bring a person into your life and you say, this is what I want, you have to figure out how to do it. Because it's easy for me to say, do this, do this, do that. But this is what I tell people
Right.
in a real way. And this is real talk. If you make a commitment, God can make the way. But you got to make the commitment first. And it'll make a difference what it is. Oh, I want to go back to school. I don't have time. You make the commitment, God will make the way.
Figure it out.
I want to start this new
Right.
business, but I don't have the time. If you make the commitment, God will make the way. I want to be in a relationship, but I'm so busy with whatever. You make the commitment, God will make the way. See, you know, just to use a scriptural example, when the children of Israel left Egypt out of slavery and they had the Red Sea in front of them and the army behind them and they were panicking.
Yeah.
The water didn't split, whether you believe the story or not. This is the story. The water didn't split until they put their feet in the water. Sometimes people are waiting for the Red Sea of their life to split before they walk in. The faith step is stepping in first. It takes faith to be in a relationship. All right.
It does.
So if you have faith that, okay, God, I got a lot of stuff going on. And I know, you know, I teach metaphysics. So you say God, divine mind, universal law, whatever term you use. I got a lot going on. But this is something I desire. I know if I make the commitment, if I take the faith step, I know that I can make a way. So you got to take the step in faith, that knowing that if I put energy and intention and attention into this relationship, the divine grace will handle to make sure that I have enough space for this and to be able to handle my other stuff. In other words, God can increase your bandwidth.
Okay. I like that. I think it does. It makes 100% sense, you know, and I do struggle with that. And I always tell people it's not intentional. My goal is to work really hard for the next 6 months so that all three companies are standing up on their own and I don't have to really, and I don't micromanage, but when your name is attached to something and people are in business with you because they know you, they don't know your team. And it's like, so you're trusting a group of people to do what they need to do their job. But when it comes down to it, they're not going to call, you know, Mark, who's working on they're calling Christine. Because they're like, well, Christine, you sold this to me. You said that you can create this amazing graphic for us or this app to check in our patients. It's not working. And so they don't call the guy who designed it. They're calling Christine. So it is. And I try to tell people, you know, when you have a business and you work this hard, it's never intentional. I wouldn't, if I had known it would have been this much, I never would have thought to do this. I would have just stayed working in corporate 9 to 5 and come home and just forget it. I love what I do, but it does take a lot out of you and it takes a lot of your personal life and it's very demanding. And it's hard. But one thing that I did learn, because we talked about this probably about, you know, maybe about 6 months ago, when it came to my son, I now 100% Sundays is our day. So if he breaks it, that's one thing, but I never break it. So if people call me, I go, I'm sorry, it's Sunday. I'm with my son. I can't, right? Because that's important to me. And I hate to say that because I'm very sure the person that I referenced is going to be watching this saying, well, where's my day? I know that's going to happen. But the thing is that.
But here's the thing. But the thing about it is, people adjust around your commitments.
Yes.
And see, the thing about it, just like with your son, you made that as a commitment, and people will adjust. It's always going to be more work. Okay. You know, Stephen Covey said, you know, that when you make your transition, there will be things in your inbox. All right. But he also said that many people climb the ladder of success, and when they get to the top, they find out that they're leaning on the wrong wall. The ladder is leaning on the wrong wall. So we have to make sure, what is it that we want? So we work this hard for what? See, that's the thing. I'm working hard for what? To be able to, when it's all said and done, people work hard, not just to achieve personal success, but they also want to be able to enjoy life with the ones that matter to them.
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
So we have to figure out how to enjoy the people that matter to us, enjoy the things that matter to us while we're pursuing the success. Because if not, it'll always be another rung on the ladder that says, I'm not done. So we're just climbing, and the success is not being driven by happiness.
Right.
The success is being driven by something that is triggering something from the past. As I heard a person say many years ago, that he never felt as though his father validated him or believed in him. So he worked in the corporate setting for years, to the bone, to become a success. He had all of the things. He had the high corporate job, making tons of money. He had the big house. He had the cars, the foreign cars. He had the pretty wife and the well-behaved children. He had respect in his field, but he wasn't happy because he couldn't enjoy what he had, because he was still trying to prove his dad wrong. That's what I'm saying. The past is many times is overshadowing what we're currently doing. So what I would say is people have to get clear about what's the driving force for your success that's interfering with your ability to have the relationships you desire, whether intimate or friendship. Hopefully that makes sense.
That does make sense. And so for me, the question that kind of combos with that is, it's a blind spot, right? In everybody's communication. And I 100% know what mine is. I know what it is. And I work on it daily. I really do.
Okay.
But I don't know if people know how to identify for themselves.
Well, let's use the analogy of a car. Everybody knows that your side view mirrors have blind spots. If a car's too close to your car, you won't see it. So even though you have the rear view, two side views, when you say you're turning left, you look at your side view mirror, it looks clean. But we've been trained to take a look, sometimes a double look, to make sure that we can make that turn. What it means is you have to be very aware that you, along with everyone else, has mental and emotional blind spots. So that's the key. We've learned how to do it while driving. So we can be listening to our favorite song on the radio. We can be having conversations with people in the car, and we'll still side view mirror, take a look over our shoulder to make sure that we can make that turn, because it's been ingrained from habit. So habit is, let me stop and ask myself, what's driving this behavior? Why do I believe that? Why did I say it like that? Why am I behaving like that? Why do I feel like this energetically? And you start contemplating on those things. And the more you bring it to your own contemplation, and then you create the habits of stopping yourself, because the first thing is stopping yourself. Becoming aware. And then it's putting the habits. So it's 4 stages. And this wasn't the homework I was going to tell people about, but let me just say this. What's the name of the book? Because I believe in it so strongly. It's a book where the guy,
you mean for the homework tonight?
Unity minister. He's a unity minister, and he does the thing where He has you wear the wristbands.
Yeah.
Not about complaining. No complaints. Complaint-free world.
Oh, I know who you're talking about.
Yeah.
I'm trying to come up with the name
world, I think it is.
Mm-hmm.
Will something. And he a complaint-free world by Will Bowen. That's the name. That's the guy. And he talks about it in 4 stages. He talks about unconscious, right?
Okay. Mm-hmm.
And this isn't how he teaches it exactly, but I'm just giving you the gist of it. Where you're unconsciously incompetent. Now you're consciously, then you go from unconscious incompetence to conscious incompetence. I know this is a problem. This is a blind spot.
Right.
All right. Now you go from that to conscious competence. I'm paying attention and I've built some competency not to react the way I used to react. And then you get to unconscious competence. Unconscious competence means that you've done it enough to where now it's habitual, it's subconscious, and you don't have to think about it anymore. You do it immediately. You do it automatically. So the way he trains people to do it is he would have people wear this wristband, rubber band or whatever. And every time you complain or it's basically complaints, judgments, throwing shade at people, for instance. Right. Excuse me, every time you do it, you switch the wristband from one wrist to the other. The idea is, and you would have to read the book to get the whole context, is to go 21 days without removing the wristband. And I tell you, when I did it, and I didn't make all 21 days because what I discovered was, even though I'm not a complainer, I have subtle shade when I say certain things. And I didn't realize it until I did it. I didn't make all 21 days. I'm gonna be honest, I didn't do it. And I was in a lot of effort. Now, it's not thinking it, it's just saying it, but just being careful of what you say. You know, how can you be watching a basketball game and throw some shade at somebody and not even realize it?
Right.
Driving down the street, like, what's going on with that? What if you don't even realize it? Switch the wristband. When you first start an exercise like that, you can switch it 50 times a day, literally.
I was gonna say
you get 7 days going and then you throw some shade or you complain, or like for instance, a complaint isn't all my telling the waiter your soup is cold. The complaint is all the conversation that comes after you tell the waiter, or not telling the waiter at all, but you just don't sit there and complain about the food not being the way you want it without taking action to address it. Taking constructive action is not complaining.
Right.
So that's a great exercise if anybody wanted to do it as a couple, to say, let me get this Complaint-Free World book by Will Bowen and get the wristband thing that he sells, or use a rubber band, and see if you can live with another individual and make 21 days. That would be an awesome homework assignment.
All right, so folks, we'll be right back after this commercial break. And while we're on commercial break, you need to think about that Will Bowman book and getting that band. Let's see if you can make it 21 days. We'll be right back after this commercial break.
Give me some directions to get to you. Ain't gonna waste my time. I know that we got connection. I think about you. You're on my mind. Yeah, I'm going out of my mind. Yeah, for you, my love. You drive me crazy, tell me what to do. I'm on my knees, yeah, I am begging you. I'll break the rules if it will get me to, yeah.
Hey guys, welcome back. Well, you already know, we never have enough time with Gaylon. I don't even think Gaylon is, I don't think we have enough time with you. Every week I'm upset that it ends. Folks, I want to say personally, I'm probably going to watch this a couple times because I know there's some things I need to work on in communication. And I think before you start looking at somebody else, you need to look at how to focus on getting yourself together first and making sure you're clear on your intent. Because that's what I'm going to do. I think, honestly, Gaylon, I'll probably throw a little shade. I think I'm a little shade thrower. And I'm being honest. I think I am because I do. When I do this, that means I'm getting ready to say something to you. It's total 100% shade. So I even know my mannerisms with the shade. So I have some work I need to do. But as always, Gaylon, thank you so much. I feel like I'm letting people in on my counseling moments. But I really appreciate you bringing the expertise over to the 5Fs to Love platform. You are outstanding. And I really appreciate all the information you share with us. I will see you tomorrow. So see you guys.
All right. So I do want to leave you all with a little bit of homework. Christine can put it in the link since this show is pre-recorded in the comment section or however she does it, because she's the IT person. I'm just the teacher. So I want you to go back and listen to an episode that I taught from last season, which was I Meet No One But Me. Why is this necessary for healthy communication? Because you have to know how you are showing up in life and how life is showing up to you based upon your own consciousness. So when you listen to the I Meet No One But Me, you will learn the techniques of discovering how universal law is showing back up in your life as people, places, and experiences. It's a really important episode. The second thing is I interviewed Christine on a different podcast where I actually interviewed her, and she actually taught the 5Fs for Love's platform. What is it based on? Because I think this is important. Often, as people are listening to all these different shows that she has on this platform, it's built on a foundation. And I think it's important to understand the foundation from the person who actually created it. So she'll put the episode on my that I did on my Truth Transforms with Reverend Gaylon McDowell podcast, where I interviewed her about what are the 5Fs for Love, what is it based on, and what can you get from it. So I think that'll be greatly beneficial to you. Check it out. Again, Christine will put it in the comment section or link it together with this somehow, some way. And the main thing is go out, put it to work, put it to the test, and remember that you have to make yourself the priority. And what I mean by that is happiness and things of that nature. And making yourself a priority does not mean it. I don't mean it from a narcissistic point of view. What it means is you have to get yourself together. You have to be healthy enough to be able to be in a relationship or help others. If you're on an airplane and there's turbulence and the oxygen mask falls, it says, they tell you to put the mask on yourself first, then put it on the person you're with. If you're not healthy, emotionally, mentally, financially, and many other things, it's very difficult to be the person you want to be with another person. It's hard to show up the way you want to show up for another person. So as you work on you, it gives you the opportunity to be the best version of service for others, the best version of partner for others, the best version of compassion and love and grace and support for others. So work on yourself, get yourself in order so you can go out and be the magnificent being that you are and impact people with your positivity and transformation. God bless.